Not every citizen in this country is treated equally before the law. Days after the verdict was delivered, this is what the woman actor who was sexually assaulted in 2017 had to say. Her words were not addressed to the court or to lawyers or to the media. It was addressed to the public. 6 men were convicted for abducting and sexually assaulting her inside a moving car. At the same time, actor Dileep, the man who was accused of masterminding the crime, was acquitted of all conspiracy-related charges. One verdict and 2 sharply different outcomes. And almost immediately, Kerala split down the middle. For some, the conviction of the 6 men was proof that the justice system had worked. For others, Dileep's acquittal, combined with what they saw as minimal punishment for the perpetrators, felt like a deep moral failure. There were protests on the streets, outside film venues, at film festivals and cultural events. Inside buses, passengers asked for Dileep's films to be switched off. And online, where many posted questions or simply the hashtag Avalkoppam, or with her. Again and again, the same question surfaced. How can a crime be proven, but the conspiracy behind it disappear? How must one look at what transpired inside court while reading the judgment? And that is why the verdict has divided the state. Not because people disagree on whether the survivor was assaulted or not. The court itself says the crime did happen. But because people disagree on whether the full truth was acknowledged. So what exactly did the court say? What did it accept and what did it reject? And why is proving criminal conspiracy so difficult in Indian courts? Let me explain. The Sessions Court judgment runs over 1,500 pages. On one question, the court leaves no room for doubt. The survivor was abducted. She was sexually assaulted inside a moving vehicle. The assault was filmed. 6 men carried it out. There was medical evidence, forensic material, the survivor's testimony, and the memory card containing the visuals. On all this, the court was unequivocal. The survivor's testimony was accepted when she spoke about the assault. But inside court, even that testimony was questioned. Defense lawyers asked the survivor why she was traumatized for hours if she was bold and courageous. One lawyer even asked why she didn't jump out of the car when it must have stopped at traffic signals. That a woman is expected to jump out of a car, then not be afraid of 6 men was perhaps the logic. The court explicitly rejected these arguments. Even a woman who is otherwise bold and courageous can collapse under the weight of trauma. Rape does not follow logic, and shock does not behave rationally. No one, the court noted, seriously disputed the survivor's statement or the video and scientific evidence. But while the survivor's testimony was used to establish the crime, the court applied far stricter scrutiny when she spoke about power equations and threats. For example, the survivor said during the rehearsal for the Dileep Europe show in May 2012, she and Dileep did not speak to each other as tensions were high. The court said it's very difficult to believe that there was no conversation between 2 leading performers during the rehearsal camp of a program. The survivor also said that when they reached Europe, Dileep spoke to her with a threatening tone on the bus. But the court disbelieved the survivor here as well. The court said if Dileep had threatened, someone would have noticed. She's a leading actress and she could have disclosed it then and there, the court said. And it rejected the survivor's testimony. The judgment instead quotes another witness, Nadir Shah, Dileep's close friend, who was declared hostile by the prosecution. He said everything was fine during the Europe show and they were all like a big family. When it came to witnesses who deposed saying Dileep was angry with the survivor for disclosing his extramarital affair, witnesses like Manju Warrier and Geetu Mohandas, the court had many questions. Why were certain details mentioned only in cross-examination? Why were they not in the earlier police statements? Though a witness can introduce facts during a cross-examination, the court did a minute detail-by-detail comparison between their statement to the police and in court. For example, the court said Manju did not tell the police she contacted Dilip and Kavya after she spoke to the survivor. But we checked Manju's statement to the police. Her statement to the police shows Manju had mentioned contacting Dilip, but she didn't mention Kavya. In Geetu's case, the court says that she did not tell the police that Manju saw messages between Dilip and Kavya. We checked those police statements too. Geetu had mentioned the messages. These findings will most probably be challenged in the High Court. This story didn't begin with this verdict, and the News Minute has stayed with it since day one, through the investigation, the trial, and now the judgment. This story is also about power, accountability, and a survivor's fight for justice. Behind our stories are months of reporting, reading court documents, ground reports, and careful verification. And there's more coverage coming. But this kind of journalism is possible only when readers step in, and we need your support now more than ever. We'll do our part by bringing you nuanced, verified reportage. Make sure you do your part by supporting the show. You can scan the QR code on your screen or click the link in the description and support the show by choosing any amount of your choice. The next part of the judgment is regarding a show that was done in April 2013. The survivor said during the show, Dilip's friends told her that he was very angry and unhappy with her. This is where almost all witnesses were declared hostile, including the survivor's friend Bhama and Siddiq. The judgment, however, accepts Bhama's and Siddiq's statements that they never spoke of Dilip's anger. The judgment reasons that Bhama, Siddiq and others are friends not just with Dilip but also with the survivor, placing Dilip and the survivor on the same footing. And then the judgment says, because of this friendship, there is no reason to disbelieve their testimonies against the prosecution. There were two witnesses who told court that Dilip did have a problem with the survivor, makeup artist Renju Renjimar and producer Jeevan Nasir. Their testimonies were rejected, citing various reasons, including late revelations and their inability to remember exact details. The survivor's statements that she lost chances in the industry because of Dilip are mere oral testimonies. They're not backed by proof, the court eventually concluded. So the motive, as I explained, could not be proven using witness statements. As far as the actual commissioning of the crime goes, the judgment runs into hundreds of pages, questioning the way evidence was collected, whether some of it was planted, and rejecting almost all of it on multiple grounds. This tension runs through the judgment, and it's one of the reasons the verdict had unsettled so many people, because it shows how the law can believe a survivor about violence but still doubt her account of power. To understand why, we need to talk about criminal conspiracy. Under the Indian law, conspiracy is rarely proven through direct evidence. There are no contracts, no written instructions, no paper trail that says a crime was ordered. Instead, courts look for a chain and conduct. That's chain before the crime and conduct after it. Meetings, phone calls, money trails. If even one link in that chain breaks, the benefit of doubt goes to the accused. We have seen this before. In the Shankar caste killing case in Tamil Nadu, a Dalit man was hacked to death in public for marrying outside his caste. The men who carried out the murder were convicted, but the man accused of orchestrating it, the woman's father, was acquitted by the High Court because the prosecution could not conclusively prove the conspiracy. The court said the chain was incomplete. That pattern repeats itself in conspiracy cases across India, and it played out again here. In the actor assault case, witnesses mattered enormously, and many of them collapsed. 28 prosecution witnesses turned hostile. Hostile witnesses do not automatically mean the truth disappears. But when this happens at scale, it weakens the prosecution's spine. The prosecution also has to do some serious explaining on whether the case lacked material evidence or they were simply not able to present itself well in court. Because criminal trials are also about appreciating evidence. The court has discarded several pieces of evidence the prosecution had relied on. A handwritten letter allegedly written by the prime accused, that's Pulsar Suni from jail, addressing Dileep and suggesting that this was a hired crime. Call data records that showed contact but not agreement. Meetings that were alleged but not independently corroborated. Electronic evidence that failed procedural tests. Even revelations made years later were treated cautiously and rejected as inconsistent, delayed, or procedurally weak. This is how conspiracy cases often fail. Not because nothing happened, but because not enough can be proven to the court standards. What leaves us most uneasy about this judgment is that it concludes Pulsar Suni and driver Martin hatched the conspiracy. The judgment nowhere mentions the possibility of a powerful conspirator. The law does not operate in vacuum. The verdict arrived in a society deeply aware of power, of who gets believed and who is expected to prove everything again and again and again. Kerala has seen this tension before. In the Franco Mulakkal case, where a nun accused a powerful bishop of rape. Her testimony was dissected for inconsistencies and her delay in reporting was questioned. Her continuous interactions with her abuser were used to cast a doubt that acquittal too divided the state. Not because people did not understand reasonable doubt, but because women recognized something else, the emotional cost of disbelief. The sense that judicial reasoning can sometimes mirror social morality, where silence becomes suspicion and survival itself becomes a question mark. This is the context in which today's protest must be understood. They're not just about one verdict or one actor. They're about accountability, about whether systems of justice can truly see power, and about whether survivors must always be perfect to be believed. And now, everything moves to the appeal stage. Appeals by the prosecution and appeals by the convicted. So where does that leave us? With a verdict that may be legally reasoned by some, but socially destabilizing. With a survivor who says justice feels unfinished. And with a public that refuses to move on quietly.